what sounds make us feel. Welcome back to Talk Anything. Today's mini episode is a short exploration of something simple but powerful, sound. I asked a few friends what sounds make them feel specific emotions. The ones that stood out were apathy, anger, and hopefulness. Before we get into their answers, it's worth remembering what that connection between sound and emotion, it isn't new. Throughout history, sound has been used to shape how people feel and respond. Ancient cultures used drums, rhythm, and chanting to inspire courage, create unity, or signal danger. Even in ancient Greece, philosophers believed music had the power to influence character and mood, something they called the ethos of sound. So maybe the idea that sound moves us isn't something modern at all. Maybe it's something humans have always understood. So I started by asking people a simple question. Alright, so I'll start things off nice and simple. What sounds do you associate with apathy?
Sounds with apathy. I feel like apathy ignites a bit of a bleh feeling in me. So sounds would be white noises, static sound of the TV.
I'm about to say the type of noises that might put you to sleep.
Yeah, like droning noises that are quite subtle, like an alarm. I'm thinking of my specific Sonos speaker that sometimes, for whatever reason, the Bluetooth's on and it'll make this like noise until you go dook, and it silences it. So clearing that static kind of noise.
Oh, yeah.
An air conditioner, because I feel like, when I'm feeling my most apathetic, I'm lying in my room and the air conditioner is usually the only sound that you can hear.
What comes to mind at first is mundane noises that one might generally hear in an office environment. So I'm thinking people just tapping away on a keyboard, the sound of a printer churning out paper, maybe even like a water cooler going off, but nothing exciting, nothing angry, just these boring, mundane noises that don't evoke too much emotion from me. So that's what I think when I think of apathy.
Nice. After hearing the responses, something interesting stood out. A lot of sounds people associate with apathy weren't loud or dramatic. They were repetitive, background noise, things you almost stopped noticing. And maybe that makes sense. Maybe apathy isn't about strong emotion. Maybe it's about the absence of it. Next, I asked people what anger sounded like. Well, what about anger?
Anger would be represented by car door slams, door slams.
With anger specifically, I feel like the sound of a gas stove burning sort of symbolizes the sizzling heat of anger.
Wow, that is interesting.
When I think of anger, so obviously I'm thinking of the noise of people arguing, whether or not you can hear what those arguments are, maybe muffled arguments. I think of things like cars crashing, glass shattering, noises, maybe angry cries as well.
The sounds people described here were very different. They were sharper, louder, more sudden. Anger tends to demand attention. It interrupts whatever was happening before it. It's the kind of emotion that doesn't quietly sit in the background. The final emotion I was curious about was hopefulness. Hope can be harder to describe, so I asked people. In a happier emotion, what about hopefulness?
Hopefulness. Instantly feeling wind chimes.
Oh, yeah.
The tinkle of wind chimes. Even a harp. I don't know why the hope is so esoteric and godly. The crashing of waves. Anything that's connected to outdoors and wind. Like hope for me brings change and a new horizon. So
hopefulness, I think of birds chirping. So I guess I associate that with like the freedom of a bird and being able to, have the world in front of them, ahead of them. Also a baby laughing. I think that's a pretty a sound that evokes hope. And maybe just the sound of the sound of summer, honestly, for me is kind of hope, fresh beginnings, new horizons, or the sound of spring, maybe that's more direct. Birds chirping, things coming to life after, a dormant winter. That's what I associate hope with, the sound of hope.
Being hopeful.
If I had to come up with one for being hopeful, it would be the sound of a train. So inside of the sort of like in-between section between carriages, the sound of the train running sort of symbolises a feeling of travel and a motion of hopefulness.
What stood out in these responses that that hopeful sounds weren't dramatic. They were quieter. Music, nature, moments of calm. Hope doesn't always shout. Sometimes it's a small sound that reminds you things might be okay. Whether it's apathy, anger, or hopefulness, sounds remind us that emotions doesn't always begin with what we see. Sometimes it begins with what we hear. This is Talk Anything.